Welcome to VIVR, Visually Impaired Virtual Reality. Today we are going to talk about the Bellows. Okay, well, I definitely had fun with this title. I probably sacrificed a couple years off of my life to actually fully enjoy it because it scared the heck out of me, but totally worth it. So the Bellows has a really interesting history. It started out with a very successful demo, maybe a year and a half ago, and the demo was awesome. It was straight out of the haunted house at Disneyland. They did a really good job at creating an atmosphere and being scary without jump scares. It was very well done. I enjoyed this immensely. So I was very interested in buying the full version. Unfortunately, the reviews for the full version were not great. Apparently, they kind of used all their juice in the demo. Long story short, months later, they remade the full game, and they explained it on a forum called Reddit from start to finish. And I felt a connection with this story, and I decided to support the developer, and I bought the new full version. And that's what I'm reviewing now. This game is so good at creating an environment that just makes you lose track of where you are in the real world and totally immerses you in the game world. I love that I don't really have to rely on artificial locomotion. I can really make full use of my VR space and just walk around and explore and get close. It really puts me in that moment, and that's a very strong selling point for me for any VR game. The demo had this down packed, it was done very well, and the current full version also is great. There are 3 different versions of the Bellows. Because of the history that the game had and because it was remade, there were different things that different people liked about each version, and it was kind of hard to include them all in one amazing new version, but the developers tried. They decided to include the other 2 separate versions as well, which means there are now these 3 versions of this game under the one title, The Bellows, which is technically the new and improved version of The Bellows. A little complicated, but basically if you see The Bellows on Steam, you can buy that and you'll automatically get all 3 games. And then you can choose which one you like the best and just play that and share it with your friends. So you begin the game in a haunted lobby of sorts where you have to choose which version of the game you'd like to play. Today I'm going to review the Legacy version and the regular version. I tried to play the Omni version, but I had trouble getting it started and it did not work for me. So let's start with the Legacy version. You start the game in a haunted lobby, and basically there are books lying around, and the books contain your various settings. So this is how you change things like locomotion settings and whatnot. This is the first area where I encountered issues as a visually impaired player. I had a lot of difficulty reading the settings. And when I would get closer to the book to try to read them, they would kind of back further away from me. I'm not sure if this was intentional or just a design limitation, but that's how it is. Fortunately, there's nothing too important or game-breaking in the settings. It's basically your locomotion. Well, I guess locomotion can be kind of game-breaking for some people. Essentially, you choose if you want to be able to free move using the trackpad or if you want to swing your arms to move, and one other setting that I could not really see. I ended up choosing the arm swinger one. I'm just a fan of that kind of locomotion, and I went from there. There are some jump scares in this game. I wouldn't say it's a jump scare game per se. I mean, it's a horror game, so there's always going to be some jump scares. But what really makes it great and scary for me is the atmosphere, the environment. It really does feel like the haunted house ride at Disneyland, and I really do enjoy that. Yes, there are some low-hanging screams or flying things that scare you and freak you out, but that's definitely not all there is to the game. Now, on to the regular version, or the improved and slightly condensed version. The first thing I noticed is that there were no locomotion settings. You're just kind of in the room and you're told to stand on a certain location, and I did that and the game kind of started. I have been reading reviews online that people felt the locomotion for the different versions of the game were kind of all over the place, so don't get used to any one type of locomotion. Depending on which version you play, some will be available, like Arm Swinger, and sometimes they won't. I'd also like to take a second and say that the sound in this game was really well done. I noticed that the sounds would change depending on my position or the location of the item making the sound. So if I turned, I could hear it coming from one ear, and if I turned a different way, I could hear it coming out of a different ear, and I could hear it getting farther away. I mean, the quality is not perfect. I can't say that it's perfectly lifelike, but I'm not sure any game in VR is currently perfectly lifelike. But it definitely did have accurate sound, which is a big deal for some VI players. So I will mention that usually when I play VR games, I am not using headphones. I have the audio coming out of just my room speaker, which I guess is not ideal for immersion. But this is one of the first games I actually tried to play with the new Audio Deluxe head strap. I actually review that in a separate episode. But, oh my gosh, it scared the crap out of me. I seriously was just, okay, there's the sound of light water running, and that was cool, and I'm exploring, and it's kind of creepy, but nothing too amazing, and then boom, 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 I hear some pounding door right behind me. So apparently the sound quality is pretty darn good. Scared the heck out of me. So, what's the verdict? I would say yes, this game is a decent game for VI players. You can walk around and get close to things for the most part. While there are a couple things I'd like to see improved, like locomotion should be standardized across all versions of the game, it's pretty good. And there was no issue that I ran into that prevented me from playing as normal. And it was fun and a little bit scary, and it created a really neat atmosphere. So I'd say go for it. And it's cheap, and the developers seem like nice people. So that's it. You have just finished listening to another episode of VIVR, Visually Impaired Virtual Reality. If you have any questions about today's episode, please feel free to email at vivr@ddbluezero.com or follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook.